Hey guys, people here. Before we get going, I got a funny clip from one of my members, Warman. He posted it on the Discord. If you're interested in becoming a member, you can find that option below next to the subscribe button. But here you see this King George kind of rams this York right into the border. And down you go, mighty. Shoves it right under the water and... buoyant little sucker. Pops right back up. So I thought that was pretty funny. And then to boot, Warman decides to blast him. Come on, Warman. They've been through enough. But today we're going to be taking a look at the Grasse again. Now this ship, after about 5 games, I posted a early review yesterday. And I recommended it. Thought it was a strong ship. I'm thinking it's an extremely strong ship, and now I highly recommend it. There's my Lemonier build for you. Low level, I'm not going to promote him too high until the full line comes out, just because there's a lot of other needs for my promotion orders at this time. So I got 2 games today. I think the second one is my personal record in terms of XP, so you're going to want to stay tuned for that one. This game, if it's not the highest damage I've done so far on the ship, it's up there. But my primary goal loading into this game was to kind of test out the AP rounds on the ship. And I'm finding them to be effective at all ranges, and we'll discuss them more as the situations rise. The closer you get to the target, the more deadly they become. There was one game where I was maybe, let's say, 7 kilometers away from like a broadside New Mexico. Pretty heavily armored ship in the sides. I blasted them upper hull on the side and got, I think, about 8k damage on that salvo. So don't sleep on the AP rounds here with this ship. Definitely dangerous, but broadside cruisers, you definitely do not want to be showing your sides to this ship. You'll absolutely get destroyed, as you'll see multiple times in these 2 games coming up here. So right off the bat, you can see we took a pretty severe Citadel shot. I believe, I haven't seen pictures of the armor layout yet from PC, but I think the Citadel's kind of back end of the ship. That tends to be where I'm getting dinged the hardest in the ship. But really the only weakness of this thing is getting shot. And it's getting to the point with having played this ship a fair amount now where it's on my to kill list for sure. Whenever I see these, it's going to become a priority target. It's an extremely dangerous ship. Left alive, it's going to cause a lot of problems. So it is a light cruiser. It's not going to stand up to a lot of punishment, but you know, but you see there, even at that range, we're able to pop that if we were talking with a couple nice Citadel shots there. Yeah, you do need to be eliminating these ships. They shouldn't be allowed to run around, or they're going to be causing severe problems for your team. Now here we're just kind of in a really centralized position, which is alright as long as I'm not getting shot. I do have that island to my right for cover, but I am spotted and potentially ships can fire at me. Now this ship has a lot floatier shells. I'd say it's second only to the USN in terms of floatiness. So you can arc over a lot of islands that maybe you aren't going to be subjected to return fire from, especially from battleships. So that's one of the highlights of this ship. You can get into positions where, you know, you can punish people and you're not going to be getting it in return. Now here, this Omaha, we get, you know, a handful of Citadels there, and again, cruisers, this is not what you want to be doing to this thing. It was 2 salvos and we absolutely just crunch that guy. So I think that puts us up to 9 Citadels so far, and you know, that's not abnormal with this ship at all. I had a match on Estuary where I had a high caliber within like 3 minutes because I was spawning in the center and 2 cruisers came around the center bend and I blasted them both, and I think 1 shot of one of them and 2 shot of the other one, and that put me up to like 50k damage or something like that, like right off the bat. So you can't be fiddling around with this ship, especially close range. That AP will absolutely shred your ship to bits. But here you see we're just kind of content to move around here. We did have that Gaiety that we obviously were focusing on. Destroyers, if you can shoot them, you need to be shooting at them. Nuremberg's coming in at angles, so we're going to be shooting HE now. HE angled cruisers definitely going to be your best bet. You can get some penetrating shots with AP at angled cruisers. And here's the fellow Grasse here. I'm assuming his guns weren't pointed directly at me because, you know, obviously I'm perfectly broadside to him and vice versa. But he kind of sneaks through that gap. We're able to blap him a little bit. He does have HE loaded, which is unfortunate for him. He's not going to effectively trade with us using that ammo type. And we're able to score another nice shot as he sneaks around the corner there. And if you noticed, he had kind of pulled back behind that cover that wasn't too tall, but it would have blocked a lot of shots. But because these shells arc just a little bit at that range, we're able to pop him right over there. Now here you're going to see some shots. Well, Furitaka, I mean, that's obviously we've established we have no problems hitting citadels with this thing on broadside cruisers, really at any range. I'm not finding any problems with that. But I do I'm experimenting here with this Fuso here, shooting him with the AP, and he's going to stay broadside to me. I just kind of wanted to test it out. This is what I would consider to be like a mid-range shot with this AP. And we're getting some pens, we're getting some damage, but if I wasn't testing this, you know, I'd probably be shooting HE. I think you'd be having a little bit more effective results doing so. I mean, it's not uncommon to get 10, 12 fires in the ship after the match is all said and done. It's really a nice fire starting. And, you know, maybe part of the perks of the ship are the commander, Lemenier, or whatever his name is, very strong. He's got the offensive package that you'd find on like Yamamoto, Von Bueller, Norm Scott. Norm Scott's kind of an anomaly. He's got unique perks. He's got a version of the Ingenious. I can't remember what his is called, but he's the only offensive cruiser commander that currently has the one that tells you how many ships are aiming at you, which I really enjoy, but they're mostly found on defensive commanders. But yeah, so this guy is very offensive minded, so one of his skills boosts AP penetration, AP damage. How much of an effect that has on the ship, I don't really know. I mean, it's hard to say. Obviously, we can't compare it at this point in time to the other commander. But, you know, I mean, that's to what extent the commander is boosting the ship's performance, I can't say, I guess is my point. But it's a very strong combo, the Grasse and Lemenier, or whatever his name is. So anyway, we're just plowing away here, lighting fires, shooting ships, up to 80k here. I mean, you know, we need 90k to get 93k, I guess, technically, to get 3 times our HP, you know, our ship's HP, which is the sign of a good game in my mind. And these are the kind of positions you want to be looking for with a cruiser here, where there's a lot of these islands. There'll be like a really high hump in the middle that kind of blocks all the shots, and then there'll be like a little bit of a drop off and some side abutments or juttings, or I don't know what the hell they're called, but you know, something like this where there's a lower part of the island that you can kind of shoot over. And again, you can get really close with the ship. It's not quite Atlanta-like in terms of shooting straight up, but you know, I've been surprised on more than one occasion how close I can get to an island and actually be able to launch the shells over it. And the further away they are, you know, the better launch angles you have in terms of that. But, you know, here at New Mexico, we're just, at this point, I've kind of concluded my AP test in my mind at least, but trying to get a little bit more damage. Starting fires, again, that's going to be a great source of damage for you with the ship. Now you notice we do have a cruiser in between us and this New Mexico, and 9 times out of 10 ships are going to shoot at ships that are closer or closest to them, so I like to take note of like player tendencies and kind of incorporate those into how I plan various plays in the game. But you know, I could sit here relatively, you know, unopposed and not really feel threatened. So that's something to keep in mind. But if you're being shot at or you're selecting targets, you don't always want to pick the one that's closest to you. You want to be identifying who's the biggest threat, or you know, if there's a low health target, you want to try and eliminate them, you know, so on and so forth. There's a lot of different considerations, but You can see here we switch back to AP. If you get multiple fires on a ship like that, especially a battleship where they're going to be burning for a while, the value of those HE salvos goes down because you're not going to be able to start additional fires. I mean, half of the fun and the effectiveness of the HE salvos is setting the fires. But once those sections of the ship have a fire on them, then you might as well just switch to AP and go for more damage that way. And we were taking a couple shots at the Fuso with the AP. He angles back in to switch back to HE, and the ship rapidly cycles its gun, so just discharge whatever rounds in the chamber, wait 6 seconds or whatever it is, and you know, you'll have your new ammo type up and running in no time. And once again, another fire here. We're up to 105k, so you know, it's a pretty solid game in my opinion for a tier 5 cruiser. And we do switch back to AP to test it out once more, but our team's able to finish them off. So, you know, I mean, again, I think that's one of the higher damage games I've had on this ship, but, you know, 2 times to 3 times your ship's base HP and damage is not uncommon whatsoever. So I do get a 3k damage game there. Here's the main event with this video, though. I think I mentioned it earlier. I'm 95% sure this is the highest XP game I've ever had. Thus point, or up to this point in the life cycle of this game. So thought it was a pretty sweet game, and figured you guys probably like to check it out. So I don't know what it is. I see a lot of players kind of abandoning these pre-captured points on domination modes that have them, like Straight's one of them. It's not a good idea. You gotta defend the base. If your base is or your objective is pre-captured, you need to defend it. Otherwise, all they have to do is flip this, and then they're up 2 bases to 0, which is a disaster for you. So, if you're inclined to leave a base that's pre-captured, don't do that. That's not good strategy, in my opinion. Here we do have a couple of Nurembergs cruising in. The one that was more broadside, I mean, it didn't matter because I don't have the AP loaded anyways, but it looked like I might have some trouble. Not that I couldn't hit him because of the arcing shots, but I figured he might drop off right when I was about to pull the trigger, and I didn't want that to happen, so. And I didn't switch to AP there because, I mean, this closer Nuremberg is angled in, and I was suspecting a destroyer was probably coming in here due to them, you know, capturing the base, or contesting it at least. So that's why I kept the AP or the HE loaded there. I mean, those broadside Nurembergs obviously are ripe for AP shots. Now that DD ends up snagging himself on the side of the wall, but you can see there what his main objective was to launch those torps. He just figured I'd sail straight through here. So luckily for us, we slowed down and kind of took a little bit of a blind fire there. He did disappear right before we popped, or were able to pop that shot. And this closer Nuremberg, I'm ready to pop him, and you'll see here, you can kind of loop these shots right over there. That's again what I was talking about earlier. I don't know if it's just this cruiser or maybe I'm just starting to notice it, but I feel like these front guns can kind of peek around cover a little bit more. Like I feel like the camera on the ship's situated back a little bit more than some of the other ones, but like I say, maybe I'm just starting to notice the ability to shoot around the island anyway, but I don't know. But yeah, don't sleep on that. I mean, what my point is, the guns, I think they're further forward than you might think just looking at the screen is my point. Now here, I don't know, I was brain farted. I thought the torps were loaded for whatever reason, but you know, using the torp indicator to check these guys is also a good situation in these close quarter brawling situations. Now, a lot of people aren't comfortable brawling in a cruiser like this close quarters, but obviously I'm not interested in conceding capture points, so if nobody on my team's gonna do this, then I'm gonna sit here and do it myself. And I wanted to smoke that cruiser with the AP, but this Farragut kind of blocked me on the salvo that I was hoping was gonna kill him, so I do have to switch to HE I was hoping to kill him. But you know, you got to be very quick with your ammo or your ammo selection on this ship. But again, quick reload, it's not an issue. Just load whatever shell is right for the situation you're in. That's the way you need to play it. I mean, there's some ships like, your 15-second reloading heavy cruisers where switching the ammo back and forth rapidly isn't always the best play. You gotta kind of understand the situation a little bit more. But something with a 6-7 second reload like this, not an issue. Obviously, I do have 2 targets I'm dealing with here. The Farragut's appears to have stopped behind the island, so we're gonna again switch right over to AP. That's the shell I needed for this situation, and hopefully try and pop this guy right here. And he gone. So, I mean, if you haven't noticed by now, this thing is an absolute citadel machine against broadside cruisers that you just cannot be pointing your broadside at this thing. It's a recipe for disaster. And I'm assuming he's trying to launch torps in kind of a last-ditch effort, so I was going to move forward anyways, but, unless the destroyer, that he's in between reloads because you saw the torps in the water before, then that's alright. But otherwise, just destroyers, cruisers that have torps, just play like they're launching them in situations that you'd be launching them if you were in their shoes, and that'll help you avoid a lot of trouble there. Now we're almost on the verge of defending this side here, more or less on our own. I probably had a little bit of help at some point, but playing it felt fairly like a solo effort. And I think it's that Nuremberg that we were dealing with earlier. We're just going to, again, load AP. We got the plane spotting us, not the end of the world. He can't do anything to me if I can't do anything to him, so I know roughly where he is, and we're just going to keep blast away there. I did, again, those forward guns, those caught the islands where in my mind, I thought they were cleared, so I don't know, maybe I'm just crazy or what, but the camera may or may not be situated back further. That's my point. But again, I think this guy looks like he's shooting HE, and there's some more torps. Again, we pulled forward just to account for the possibility that they were incoming, and there they were. So you'd rather be moving ahead of time than be sitting there flat-footed and have to react right at the last minute when you see him, because often that's going to be too late. And I don't know if he's stuck or he's just kind of resigned to his fate, but going around that island put us in an even juicier position to access that citadel. So another one bites the dust. Now evaluating this situation at this point, they have 2 DDs and a cruiser, and we have the battleships and me and the cruiser. If they can eliminate me, I mean, that lowers our odds of being able to withstand their attacks. Battleships, especially spread out battleships like ours are not usually going to survive destroyers that are played well, so I'm kind of, a bulwark against disaster. Now they are attempting to flip the middle cap, and they, of course, will be able to before I can get over there. There's nothing I can do about it. Score-wise, I'm not too concerned about that. We just need to make sure that nothing horrible goes awry, and one of our battleships was able to kill their remaining cruisers, so now it's down to 2 destroyers. Now, at this point, I'm trying to obviously move into position, but you'll see here in a moment I become detected. And just take a look at what's on my screen here, because obviously he was just capping B, so he has to have a line of sight from me here. Now, in my mind, when I was playing this, I thought he was to my left because that's where he was last pointed on the map. But looking at this replay now, there's a lot more open area that could have been spotting me to my right-hand side, so that's something I missed when I was playing it. Just watching the replay now, I'm guessing, he's probably to the right just because of the terrain that was available. Again, more wide open, more angles that he could have been, located at. And destroyers are obviously always going to have the advantage when spotting you, so you got to assume they're going to be further away than, you might otherwise assume they would be. But what I'm doing now, just trying to recapture the point, obviously, but you'll see I'm just kind of changing my course every 4, 5, 6, 10 seconds, whatever it is. And again, I'm noticing I'm spotted. Always take a note of that when you're playing against a DD. Whether or not you're spotted is critical, because if it drops off, then you can kind of try to start to come up with ideas. He could be there because that island has a corner, so perhaps, as I moved in this direction, that obscured his line of sight or whatever. You need to be looking around, but he's continuously maintaining the spotting on me, so he's either directly south of this position or directly north of this position. Again, I was playing it like he was to the south, and you know, it's sometimes you just don't know. You just have to pick a side. But this Mutsuki's kind of flowing into me now. I don't know what he was doing. I mean, he's trying to, I think he torped that battleship, obviously, and then he's trying to get away from him. But until now, I'm undetected, but previously I've been detected the entire time, so he should know roughly that I'm heading in his direction and I'm relatively close. Now you'll know we are detected again. Again, this could be the ship that now we know is to the north, or it could be this one, and it appears to be this one. You can see there's a big gap between where the ship is located on my screen and that island, so I actually sailed into his blue detectability ring, but he had a line of sight on me for a little bit of time because I had sailed directly south through that island. We're able to blast him, no problem. Mutsuki versus a Grasse is not a fair fight in any regards. And the Farragut up here decides to open fire at me. That's fine, he needs to kill me. These shells look to me like they're HE, which is the wrong shell. If he's got broadside to me like this, you need to be shooting the AP into those sides when they're exposed. That was his best chance. But presumably he does have 2 salvos of torpedoes loaded. He is in the cap, which is putting pressure on me to preserve it. Now the score is becoming less and less relevant the closer this game gets to ending, but you don't want to just concede a cap and then, sail off, because the score will catch up to you. And you'll see here I do it a couple times. I kind of turn to the right and present a broadside and sail in that direction for a little bit. That's baiting the torp. Destroyer players want to torp broadsides, and then if you sail in a straight line for just a little bit, they'll be like, aha, now he's ready to go. Pop a torp. I was hoping he was going to do both salvos, but he launched one. And we do the same exact move here. There's an old saying in Tennessee. I know it's in Texas. It's probably in Tennessee that says, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me, we can't get fooled again. Doesn't look to me like he fell for the move twice, but he did blind fire. Now, you don't want to blind fire when you're in the cloud, especially when you have a much stronger ship chasing you like that. You saw I did try and blind fire at him, and he did launch the torp, so maybe that move worked. But it gave me a chance to blind fire him. It's just not worth him firing. He should just try to run away a little bit earlier. But we did end up with a 42k XP game, Kraken on that one, which I was pretty happy with. I hope you did enjoy the video. If you did, please hit the thumbs up. New to the channel, consider to subscribe, and there's a lot of World of Warships coming all the time. Questions for me, comments, leave them below. I love to hear from you guys. And we'll see y'all later. Alright, peace.